Ladies and gentlemen, you already know this. The United States of America has formally entered the Israel-Iran war, something that has heightened fears of a wider conflict in the region. The world is watching closely and cautiously. The cost of conflict in today's age is not just restricted to the nations that are directly involved, but it impacts regions far and wide. For India, for example, the safety of Indians stuck in the war-torn countries assumes top priority. Operation Sindhu, which was launched to bring Indians back from Iran and Israel, is in full swing as we speak. So far, more than 1,400 Indian nationals have been evacuated safely from Iran. This was made possible by India's deft diplomacy, as Iran made an exception for New Delhi, opening its airspace to facilitate evacuation of Indians even as the conflict raged on. Now, as tensions mount with the United States bombing Iran's nuclear sites, Prime Minister Modi has made it a point to speak to Iran's president to discuss the current situation. He's expressed concerns. The Prime Minister is calling for an immediate de-escalation, once again laying emphasis on dialogue and diplomacy as the way forward. Iran, meanwhile, has moved to block the Strait of Hormuz, with its parliament now approving closure of this strategic global oil choke point. A final decision, of course, is yet to be taken because even in the worst of times, Iran has not moved to block the Hormuz Strait, the Strait of Hormuz. This waterway, just by the way, is very, very crucial for oil trade, as it allows 20% of the world's daily consumption. For India too, the Strait of Hormuz is very important. Out of India's total oil import of some 5.5 million barrels per day, 2 million barrels every day passes through this very strait, which just by the way is very, very narrow and therefore very easy to control. But India can turn to alternative sources such as Russia, the United States, Brazil to fill in the void. In fact, India has already ramped up its crude oil purchases from Russia and the United States in June. The import volumes from the two nations exceed the combined volumes from Middle Eastern suppliers. So the hope is, fingers crossed, that India will not be impacted as much as the rest of the world. But yes, shipping costs will go up, the price of oil will go up. Another important aspect which is concerning India is its strategic interest in the backdrop of growing proximity between the United States of America and Pakistan. Just a few days ago, Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, met Donald Trump over lunch at the White House, in which the Iran-Israel war was discussed. Pakistan has reciprocated this lunch invitation by nominating President Trump for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize. But significantly, President Trump has said that Asim Munir agreed with his views on Iran. Now, is Pakistan's condemnation of the US strike nothing but an act of monkey balancing? Before I go to my guests, this is a big piece of news that is breaking at this point. Iran, we believe, may choke the Strait of Hormuz after the economic suicide caution that the US has urged. The US, in fact, now urging China to dissuade Iran from blocking the strait. The US said this is economic suicide. They'll never do it. Now, it seems that the US feels that the Iranians could actually act on the threat. If it happens, God forbid, the markets will be in the red tomorrow, oil prices will increase, all mayhem will break loose, which is why the US now urging its sworn enemy China of trying to dissuade Iran from choking the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, we are also hearing from the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. As I said, he's called on China to encourage Iran not to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. This after Washington carried out strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. Let me go straight across to Ambassador Yash Sinha former diplomat who's been waiting very patiently. Ambassador Yash Sinha, first of all, I would publicly want to apologize to you. I know I've not been able to come to you even once. I do want to talk about the US enlisting China's help to try and see that Iran doesn't block the Strait of Hormuz. But honestly, what interests me right now is Pakistan. What do you think Pakistan will do now? Just 2 days ago, they officially nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Today, they are condemning the American attack on Iran.
Well, thank you. I'm reminded of what Mark Antony spoke in front of Julius Caesar's body. Cry havoc, let the dogs of war, let's slip the dogs of war. I think let's get real here. We are part of the region, part of the extended region. And the Major General from the former National Security Advisor from Israel, I think he's not here, he talked about India-Pakistan being a problem, or the dispute, the skirmish or the conflict, whatever you call it, being more serious. I think we need to get real. We are impacted. I have lived on different sides of the Strait of Hormuz. Thank God that the Chahel Tusum Palace or the Abbasi Sarai or the Nashke Jahan in Isfahan has not been bombed. I've visited multiple times. I think we need to get real here. And I think the Prime Minister has made a very good statement. I think people in the West need to judge who the real culprit is. You have a rogue state next to us who is feted in the White House, whose failed marshal is feted in the White House, and the US CENTCOM commander calls that country a phenomenal partner in the fight against terrorism. I think we in India need to get real. I think we really need to know where we stand and what we need to do. I mean, Israel is a time-tested friend, and it proved so recently in the conflict with Pakistan. So I know I have a lot of friends in Israel and so many friends in Iran, but I think we really need to judge for ourselves where we stand today. You're talking about blocking the Strait of Hormuz. You know what that entails. I mean, as far as India is concerned, India is a rising power, an emerging power. We import more than 80% of our energy needs. A lot of it comes from the countries around the Strait of Hormuz. We cannot take this lightly. We cannot sit back and let this situation escalate because it affects us directly. It affects our economic growth, and it affects our partnerships across the globe.
Ambassador, I understand, given the escalation we have seen in the last 14 to 15 hours, now is not the time for big bluster and talk by India, but the Prime Minister has already dialed the Iranian president. He's already saying tensions need to be dialed down. My question is, beyond this, what can India do if the world's most powerful country has decided to attack Iran in the dead of the night? Ray Locker, I just want to bring you in on the question of Pakistan and a Nobel Peace Prize for Mr. Trump. I'm assuming that the Swedes are watching, that the Nobel Peace Prize Committee is watching as well. And this time too, Mr. Trump is not getting the Nobel Peace Prize. But do people in America, does the American government and Mr. Trump, who has publicly claimed that I love Pakistan, do they see the duplicity? At one point, saying we support America's position, we understand their position on Iran, and when America acts, they step out to say what America did was wrong.
Well, look, in America, you have people who are knee-jerk Trump supporters. They agree with everything the guy says, whether or not it's contradictory. And then there are, I think, a majority of people who look at him and say he's done nothing to deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. He really does not know what he's doing. Why did he invite Munir to the White House when there's all this tension? Why does he continually claim that he helped broker the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, and when his involvement was minimal at best? I mean, it's hard to figure out what he knows or what he's doing. And a lot of people here just go, oh, that's Trump. and they're kind of like hoping he'll just go away, even though he's not going to go away anytime soon. And they discount what he says and does. But you look at what's happening now, it has real world ramifications. And the trouble is he doesn't think anything through. He does what he wants. He listens to whoever tells him what he wants to hear the most, whoever flatters him the most. For a while, it seemed like that was working for Prime Minister Modi, probably not so much anymore. And what everybody who deals with Trump finds out is you're going to get your heart broken eventually.
Nima, someone who's representing Iran on this show, what is Pakistan to you? I mean, are they frenemies? Are they worse? What?
I just want to make clear, I'm not representing the Iranian government. I'm an Iranian journalist based outside of Iran, so I'm not representing the Iranian government in any stretch of the imagination. Look, Pakistan, I really want to refrain from commenting on that because it would be disingenuous and wrong of me to sit here and make statements and speak on behalf of a nation and of a country that has a legitimate government that if you want, that they can speak for themselves. I'm just going to address this generally. And the issue is this: ever since the special military operation in Ukraine began from Russia, as a reaction to the overthrow of Yanukovych and everything that's followed since, what we're seeing is the beginning of the end of the Anglo-American hegemony in the world. Every country from Pakistan to Ukraine to Romania to all African countries, South Africa, South America, Asia, everyone has to decide what you do as this rabid dog, the American empire, is falling. And it's falling and it's prepared to drag everyone down with it. Every country, every sovereign state has to decide where they stand. Do we enter into the multipolar world, which is a reality, and do we do it based on mutual respect, or do we allow to get pulled into this never-ending cycle of escalation, which will only end in the annihilation of the human race? That is where I stand on this. And I think that is the mature way to go forward about this.
The question, as I wrap the show this evening, the question is, how much worse will it get before it gets better? Will Iran actually strike at US military assets in the region? Because if that happens, this is a major escalation. If that happens, the NATO may have no choice but to step in, which means a further escalation, the possibility of World War III. Or will Iran, that has now been pushed to the corner, come back to the negotiating table? Because one thing is very clear, the strikes were possibly not President Trump's first choice. His patience was running thin as far as the uranium enrichment negotiations with Iran were carrying on. So what happens next? We'll wait and watch. These are tense times. These are very uncertain times. Let's hope the world pulls through this one. For the moment, thank you very much, Ambassador Yash Sinha. Good to have you on the show. Mr. Brahmachalani, thank you very much. Ray Locker, thank you very much. And Niva Tabeli, thank you very much for joining us as well. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I'm slipping into a quick break. Our rolling coverage of the crisis in the Middle East continues. Do stay with us.